Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alyson Le Grange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost. Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alyson Le Grange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. An aide to the Kremlin claims NATO and the West were directly involved in the planning of Ukraine's incursion into Russia's Kursk region. Israel orders fresh evacuations in former humanitarian zones, saying the areas were used by Hamas for firing mortars and rockets as ceasefire talks continue in Doha. Thailand's parliament elects Paetongtarn Shinawatra, 37-year-old daughter of divisive political heavyweight Thaksin Shinawatra, as the youngest prime minister of the country. The Indian Medical Association calls for a nationwide strike of doctors, with only providing essential services, in a protest over the brutal rape and murder of a doctor in Kolkata. And Sweden and Pakistan report their first cases of a more contagious variant of Mpox, marking the first time the viral infection has been found outside Africa. Hello and welcome. We begin with tensions simmering between Nigeria and its biggest bilateral creditor, China. Nigeria says it has uncovered secret attempts by a Chinese firm to take over Nigeria's assets abroad using unorthodox means. Now, the Chinese company in question is the Zhongshan Fucheng Industrial Investment Company Limited, and the dispute is between this firm and Nigeria's southwestern Ogun state. The asset seizure by the Chinese firm also includes presidential jets. Hearing the legal dispute between the Zhongshan and Nigeria's Ogun state, the Judicial Court in Paris ordered the seizure of 3 Nigerian aircraft that were en route to the routine maintenance in France. Now, these were newly acquired Airbus A330s valued at over $100 million, a Dassault Falcon 7X and a Boeing 737, previously a part of the Nigerian presidential fleet. Nigeria has accused Zhongshan of fraudulent activities and misleading courts in the UK, the US and France to claim Nigerian assets. Nigeria has now commenced legal and diplomatic moves to reclaim its sovereign assets. It says the dispute is related to the Ogun state government, while the Chinese firm is targeting the Nigerian federal government and its assets that are covered by sovereign immunity and cannot be legally seized by foreign courts. Nigeria's federal government says it is not under any contractual obligation with the company. The dispute stems from a 2007 contract between Zhongshan and Nigeria's Ogun state to develop a free trade zone, but the contract was terminated in 2015. Nigeria claims by 2015 the Chinese company had done no more than erect a perimeter fence on the land that was earmarked for the free trade zone. But the Chinese company has been demanding restitution. It has already secured more than $60 million in an arbitration award. However, Nigeria has declined to pay up. Nigeria says the recent asset seizure is the latest in arm-twisting tactics by the Chinese company. The government says it is working with the Ogun state to resolve the dispute and to protect the country's assets from seizure. The international legal battle for Nigeria, along with asset seizures, comes at a time when its economy is already struggling. The West African country is facing its worst economic crisis in a generation. China, like I mentioned, is also the biggest bilateral creditor for Nigeria. So a standoff with the Chinese company could bring additional trouble for the Bola Tinubu government. Now, for more on this, we have with us Dr. Chikudiri Nwangwu, a political analyst and a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Johannesburg's Center for Africa-China Studies. He is joining us live from Enugu in Nigeria. Thank you for being with us, Doctor.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Right, let's jump right in. According to the Nigerian government, the Zhongshan Fucheng industrial company has targeted Nigerian government assets. What are the details about this dispute?
Okay, as you already noted in your introductory remarks, the whole issue could be traceable to 2001 when the Chinese and Nigerian government signed up to an international investment treaty. So the treaty was between the two countries, between the Nigerian government and the Chinese government, to the effect that they should be able to promote bilateral issues that border on investment, trade, and the like. So in 2010, or even earlier, the Ogun State government was able to reach a deal with a Chinese company known as Zhongshan. So it was able to reach a deal with the company to the effect that the company would develop a free trade zone in Ogun State. So what happened was that between 2010 and 2016, when the contract was revoked, the Chinese company had already been awarded a major shareholding right in the free trade zone by the Ogun State government. So, but suddenly, and under circumstances that have been unable to elicit a satisfactory explanation, the Ogun State government terminated the contract. As at the time the contract was terminated, it was reported in certain quarters that the Chinese company had invested a number of things in terms of infrastructure, including road construction, including power, energy development, as well as a sewage system, development of the sewage system. So those were the key things that the company had done prior to the termination of the contract. Although the Nigerian government would have us believe that it was only perimeter fence that was constructed prior to the contract termination. So following the termination of the contract, the company initiated a legal action against the Nigerian government as it were.
And what is the nature of the alleged campaign by the Chinese company? What contractual obligations, if any, did the Zhongshan have with the Nigerian federal government or the Ogun state?
Yeah, one is that Ogun State is one of the 36 subnational governments in Nigeria. And given that it has a subnational identity, it does not have express powers to engage in international diplomatic relations with foreign countries or foreign companies. So most cases, this is done under the auspices of the relevant ministries of the federal government, either the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Trade and Investment, and so on and so forth. So, but Ogun State is a subnational government. And like I pointed out before, the contract is traceable to a 2001 bilateral investment treaty between the Chinese government and the Nigerian government. So in 2010, as it were, this treaty was effectuated through an investment of this Chinese company. So the investment essentially was about the development of a free trade zone in Ogun State. And the free trade zone, of course, is of international standard. So that contract was awarded to the Chinese company. So the involvement of the Nigerian government in the whole issue as it stands today is largely because the Ogun State as a subnational state within the Nigerian federal arrangement does not have express power to relate directly with the Chinese government or its companies. So that is why Nigerian government is being dragged in the International Court of Arbitration in France and so on and so forth. So it is the Nigerian government that is on trial and not necessarily the Ogun State government. So Ogun State government is a subset, a subunit, or a sub-national government within Nigeria. So that explains why the Nigerian state is representing the Ogun State government, subnational government, in the ongoing dispute between the Chinese company and Nigeria.
And Doctor, China is the biggest bilateral creditor for Nigeria. How could this dispute impact relations between China and Nigeria?
Okay, there is no gainsaying the fact that China is the highest creditor nation to Nigeria and by extension several other African countries. And one thing is certain here, one of the immediate implications is that if it is not properly managed through the use of available diplomatic channels, it might soil the relationship between the two countries. Over the years, China had depended on Nigeria for raw materials, for minerals, not just Nigeria, virtually every other African country. So most of the loan facilities that Nigerian government has received from China is often tied to certain infrastructures. And of course, the Chinese government, on the one hand, depends heavily on Nigeria's mineral resources. So if this issue is not resolved through the relevant diplomatic channels, it might definitely affect both the trade and the diplomatic relations between Nigeria and China. Second, it might also affect foreign direct investment from China in particular, and even the Western world at large. Because Nigeria, as it stands now, is in dire need of foreign direct investment. So if Nigeria projects itself to the international community as a truce-breaking country, as a country that can hardly submit to contractual agreements, it will be difficult for potential foreign direct investors to consider Nigeria as its country of destination when it comes to investment. Then again, it might also make China and indeed the Western world at large to be more wary in reaching contractual agreements between them and Nigeria, even with respect to the loans, to the debt, because many African countries have not been very forthright in fulfilling their debt repayment obligation to the Chinese government. So one thing it might also cause is that it will make the Chinese government to be more careful when reaching certain loan agreements, both with Nigerian government and by extension, other African countries. And again, one implication which might not be directly, one other implication which might not be directly related to China is that the whole issue has exposed the clandestine and opaque nature of the Nigerian government. Now, Nigeria, as it stands now, has been witnessing rounds of protest led by a group of youths who are largely aggrieved by bad governance in the country. And this thing cuts across issues that border on resource management and the wastage of public resources on the part of the government. So these two aircrafts that have been seized one has been newly purchased. And the second, okay, just try to run off.
Yes, Dr. Nwangu, unfortunately, we've run out of time. I'm sorry to interrupt you there. Thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa. Thank you for your valued insights.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm grateful to feature.
Thank you. Shifting focus to Kenya now. Kenya's central bank is facing scrutiny over an alleged secret deal with a German firm to print new banknotes. The governor of the Central Bank of Kenya, Kamau Tugi, has been summoned to Parliament to provide details of the contract signed with an undisclosed German firm. Now, Kenya's National Assembly's Finance and National Planning Committee wants the central bank chief to reveal the name of the German firm. The committee wants the governor to share how the tender was awarded and how much the deal will cost the taxpayers to print the new currency. Last week, the central bank governor revealed during a media interaction that Kenya had engaged the services of a German firm to print new notes. This was months after the firm, which was granted the previous tender, shut down for lack of new business. The British printer De La Rue ended its currency printing operations in Kenya last year. It had won the bid to print Kenya's new generation notes in 2018. Kenya bought a 40% stake for over $6 million in the British printer. The firm had won the bid against one German firm at the time. However, it is not clear if that is the same firm that has now been awarded the contract. The central bank governor gave no details of the name of the company or how the tender was conducted or how much will be spent on the deal. The government also did not explain whether the new printer was contracted through competitive or direct procurement. The Parliament Committee has now launched an investigation to get further details. The central bank chief said that Kenyan notes are getting old and new notes are quickly needed. The chief also announced that some new design features of the notes, including new security threads with color-changing effects specific to each denomination. The rest of the features, he said, will be the same as those of the 2019 series. And shifting focus to Botswana, it was a historic Olympic campaign for the Southern African nation as it clinched its first ever gold medal. The country is engulfed in the Olympic success and celebrating the victory of champions. But a government request has turned the celebrations into anger. The Botswana government wants its citizens to donate money to reward Olympic heroes. On Monday, it made the public request suggesting the public contribute rewards to their champions. But people are furious over such a demand and are raising questions about government spending. They are asking why their taxes aren't being used to reward the Olympians, and people have been venting on social media. Some are suggesting the cabinet members should take the lead and donate 25% of their salaries. Now, as we said, the Paris Olympics turned out to be a huge success for Botswana, all thanks to the track and field athlete Leslie Tebogo, who stunned his opponents and finished first in the 200-meter race. He defeated big names and the pre-race favorite Noah Lyles from the US. Tebogo created many histories. He achieved the first gold medal for Botswana. He also became the first African to win the title, and Tebogo also secured a silver medal as he anchored the relay team in the 4x400-meter race, and the team finished the race in a time of 2 minutes and 54 seconds and 53 milliseconds. This is the third fastest time in the history of the race and a new African record. The Olympic team received a grand welcome in Botswana as they returned on Tuesday. Tens of thousands of supporters, young and old, all came together and waved Botswana's national flag as they landed back in the capital of Gaborone. But people are outraged over the government's request, which highlights the economic situation in Botswana. Though Botswana has one of the highest levels of income per head in Africa, it also has one of the world's highest rates of youth unemployment. The country is one of the world's largest producers of diamonds, but recently experienced a slump in diamond revenues, forcing the government to cut spending. And finally, to our special segment, Resurgent Africa. Amid the coups and the crises, there are many positive stories from Africa that often get overlooked, but not on this show. In a world where fashion and catwalks are often seen as a woman's domain, one man is defying expectations and shattering stereotypes. Despite facing criticism and prejudice at every turn, a Nigerian male catwalk coach is breaking the glass ceiling in an industry where men are few and far between. Our final story gets you all the details.
People often say it's hard to be a woman in a man's world, which is why stories of women shattering glass ceilings and standing shoulder to shoulder with men resonate more. But what happens when the roles are reversed? When a man steps into fields traditionally dominated by women? He too faces the sting of criticism, the weight of prejudice, and the mockery of those who can't see beyond stereotypes. Yet there are those who walk boldly through the storm of societal expectations, undeterred by the whispers and doubts. One such trailblazer is Nigeria's own world-charming Smart Courage, a professional catwalk coach based in Lagos. For the past 15 years, Courage has been redefining what it means to be a man in a space often reserved for women.
Hello guys, my name is world-charming Smart Courage. I'm a fashion work consultant, creative artistic director and a fashion stylist.
Carving out a unique niche in a country deeply rooted in conservative values.
Everybody, let's go back, let's roll it.
In Nigeria, where cultural and religious norms often dictate gender roles, smart success is nothing short of revolutionary.
What's wrong? Okay. Whatever you...
Despite the naysayers who question his path, he remains steadfast, refusing to let doubt or criticism veer him off course. With a degree in genetics and biotechnology, his journey into fashion might seem unexpected. But for Smart, it was destiny. Inspired by his mother, a woman deeply embedded in the world of fashion, he found himself drawn to the art of working with women.
She runs several businesses and majorly fashion business, and that really, I would say, influenced my choices when I was growing up, because I see her look really exceptionally good, and maybe that influenced me in wanting to work with women, see them look good and carry themselves well.
A passion that has seen him train countless models who have represented Nigeria on the global stage. When he takes the stage, strutting confidently down the catwalk in platform stilettos, his female trainees watch in awe. His talent for storytelling and his meticulous eye for detail set him apart, and he encourages every model to embrace what makes them unique. For Smart, the catwalk is not just about theatrics, it's an extension of a person's identity.
Like I always say, having good manners, carrying yourself well is not like a suit you wear to impress people and take off when you get home. It should be embedded in you. So there's what we call the talking process. We go through your vulnerable state, allow you to come in terms with that before we start educating and teaching you on how to carry yourself. And with that, it has been easy so far. So one thing I do is I break through the individual I am trying to work with. Once they have opened up to you, any other thing is easy.
Over the years, he has trained over 3,000 women to walk with confidence and grace. But how does he cope with the criticism that comes with his profession?
I know my purpose, I know my goal, I know what I am looking for, but Nigerians do not understand. Once it does not go in line with what they think and their ideologies, you are the worst. Furthermore, if I go hungry, will they feed me? No, they would not. They will still insult me, so that's fine.
Smart's approach is simple. Let the work speak for itself. With an impeccable record, he has earned his place in the fashion industry without the need for explanations.
Most times you get to a situation whereby they introduce you as a coach and everybody's like, why would a man be teaching me how to walk and all that? I keep quiet, I don't reply, I don't even answer. I go on and do my job, and it's later they will come back to you and say, oh my God, you're good at what you do. Exactly, that is how you reply them. There's no need bantering words with people. Let the job do the talking, that's all I do.
Reflecting on the breakthrough moments of his career, Smart's pride is evident. He recalls coaching Nigerian model Tosin Adeduro, who became the 4th runner-up in Miss World Tourism.
Tosin came to me and said, Mr. Smart, are we ready to do this? I said, let's do it together. When she traveled, people were not posting her, people were even talking about her. But as God could have it, she became the 5th runner-up of Miss World, Miss Tourism World, ever. For a very long time, one of the first black girls to break the rules. And that was beautiful. When she came back, we were like, yes, we did it. It was really refreshing to know that you only have limitations that you set for yourself.
Today, Smart enjoys a following of over 400,000 on TikTok and Instagram. But he knows his journey is far from over.
The transitioning from being a catwalk coach to a stylist, initially I hate being called a stylist. But understanding that is a package look, is a package on its own. You finish training a girl and she goes out, she doesn't look the part. Your job is messed up already. So I wanted the people I work with to look exquisite.
In a world that often tries to confine us to roles defined by others, world-charming Smart courage stands as a testament to the power of perseverance and self-belief. His story reminds us that no matter the odds, breaking through the barriers society places on us is not just possible, it's necessary.
And that's it on this Friday edition of the show. We will see you again at the same time on Monday. Thank you for watching, have a great weekend, and goodbye.